What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Table Setters covering all things Major League Baseball. As always, I'm Steve, joined by tag partner Devin. What's going on, man?
What's up? What's up? Welcome everybody to the show. If you're watching live, thank you for tuning in. Yeah, we're back here, and honestly, this is a special episode because it's our final one, I believe, before opening day. We're gonna kind of take you right up to what's coming up here with predictions, and maybe we're just that smart where they're not predictions, they're spoilers. But we'll see. We get some things right, we get some things very, very wrong, as I think every baseball podcaster or analyst does. But I'm excited about this one. It's always fun to do this, and then at the end of the year, look back and see what we hit on and what we completely missed on.
And of course, it's a supplemental episode to our other prediction episodes. So if you guys are just joining us here, go back in the archives and check out our division previews where we went through every division and gave you guys the full breakdown on who's winning the divisions, who's making it to the playoffs. So all these are tied together. So make sure you guys check that out. And again, if you want to support our show, follow us at Table Setters Pod on IG and on X. We are live right now on both YouTube and on X at Table Setters Baseball on YouTube. So thanks for hopping in. If you guys are here in the chat, please give some comments. But we're going to get into, as Devin said, a lot of the conversation we've been waiting for. We're just days away from opening day proper with Netflix, of course, but then we have more baseball on the way. And this is really the last weekend we have that we're baseball list as far as Major League Baseball goes.
Yeah, and I got to say, like, when the World Baseball Classic ended, I thought, and a lot of baseball fans were saying, like, oh, now we got to do like another week and a half or so, just spring training baseball. But like, I can vibe with this spring training baseball. You got the spring breakout games going on, which is, a lot of cool matchups to see. I think everyone saw the clip earlier of Seth Hernandez throwing 102 to Max Clark and Max Clark's classic reaction. And the spring training games, the regular ones, like, you have guys making their last spring training start that are really trying to treat it as a tune-up, like ready to go. So instead of maybe going 2 or 3 innings, a lot of these guys going at least 4, some a little over 5. And you can really get a little more of a feel for how these guys are looking before the real starts begin.
Yeah, absolutely. In spring training, of course, we built the bridge from WBC, so we felt spoiled this year. We'll see if there's any changes that are made from the WBC and the success we saw. If you want to check out some of our reaction to the WBC, you could check out what we brought to the table. But we're here for one thing and one thing only. We're making predictions here. We're giving our postseason, our awards, our World Series picks, and all the things that have to do with this season. Let's head right into the meat of the order. All right, so Devin, I don't have the drop here right now, but let's get into it. So let's go with the National League Rookie of the Year. So we're going to start with the Rookie of the Year, set the stage here. There are a lot of guys that you probably go with. There's probably some chalk, as we can see. There's been a lot of hype that maybe died down a little bit from one guy throughout the season, just to start. But where are you feeling with the National League Rookie of the Year?
All right. So, yeah, like when I was doing these predictions, it's interesting because you want to be correct, but you also want to make it entertaining for yourself and for your listeners. You don't want to just go straight chalk right down the list, from Rookie of the Year to Cy Young to MVP. So mine, I don't know about yours, but I think I have a little bit of a mix of some kind of out there predictions and then some chalk that I just cannot get myself to go outside the box. And we'll get to those. This first one, I think, is way outside the box. And I say that because when I look at the odds, I don't see this guy's name anywhere in the top, whatever it is, 20, 25 players. Now, that might change based on a decision that'll be coming soon, but my NL Rookie of the Year is not Connor Griffin. It is not my guy, Nolan McLean. It is a guy that I have fallen in love with over the last couple weeks in spring training. In fact, after this episode's over, before I go to bed, I'm going to spend a little time on eBay looking for maybe a limited card of his, maybe an auto, and see if I can get something before his stock absolutely explodes. I'm sure the prices have already gone up a little bit in the last week or so, but my guy is Didier Fuentes from the Atlanta Braves, who I mentioned in our NL East preview episode a little bit. And yes, definitely out there for sure. But if you have watched this guy in spring training and seen what he has done, he has a chance to absolutely burst onto the scene. So if you look at the projections on Fangraphs, you would look at them and think, like, I am absolutely crazy if you haven't been paying attention. Some of them have him throwing like 20 innings by the time the season's over. I went with the highest projection. All right, Zips had the highest projection for him as far as innings pitched, still only 87 innings pitched to a 4.45 ERA, 6-7 record in 21 starts. Obviously, I am thinking he passes these by a lot, or surpasses these by a lot. He still has not been sent down. Okay, the Braves made a lot of moves today as far as sending guys down that were still up with them. He was not one of those guys. So it has people thinking like he's a legit shot of making the team. He got a cup of coffee with the Braves last year. He's only 20 years old. Didn't pitch well when he got called up, but this is a different situation. Also, new pitching coach in Jeremy Hefner, too. People are making comparisons right now to 2022 Spencer Strider bursting onto the scene. Even new manager Walt Weiss said these parallels are there for sure. I think a lot of managers try to like tone these things down when comps get thrown around. He was like, yeah, no, it's similar to the way Strider kind of broke onto the scene. In the same regard as Strider that year, he could start in the bullpen if they decide to carry him. There might not be a spot in the rotation. Guys like Jose Suarez and Martin Perez are kind of competing for spots in the rotation. Obviously, there's more open spots than the Braves would like based on injury. So you could see him carried on the major league team, put him in the bullpen for a little while. I think Strider was there for a couple months, and then maybe eventually he sees the rotation. Obviously, if he's in the bullpen all year, I don't think this rookie of the year prediction is a great one. But upper 90s fastball, hard slider combination has been dominant is not even the word. Like there needs to be a word more than dominant. So he has retired each of the last 26 batters he faced. The first batter he faced of the spring he hit. Since then, he has retired 26 batters in a row, 17 of them via the strikeout, 0 walks. It's just, he has been absolutely filthy. Basically, his stats, if you add them up, it's added up to 9 innings into like a perfect game if you combine them. I put up a list earlier as far as guys in the spring that are qualified pitchers. I put this on Twitter, qualified pitchers that have under a 3 ERA. And out of that group, who has the best K per walk percentage? And Mick Abel leads the list, a 2-something ERA, I believe. And the K to walk percentage is about 30%. That's the top. Now, there are some guys that have better K to walk percentages, but their ERAs are like 4 or 5. So it's like kind of a mix of like, maybe that's not as meaningful as it should be, which is why I put the parameters of the 3 ERA. The only reason Didier Fuentes is not on that list is because he has not met the innings limit to be qualified, probably by an inning or two. These other guys have only pitched maybe 3 or 4 more innings than he has. If he was qualified, he would make everyone else on that list look silly. Mick Abel, 30% is at the top. Fuentes is 63% K to walk percentage because he hasn't walked anybody, and he has a 0 ERA. I don't know, man. Like there are times where it's like, all right, that guy looks hot in spring, but like whatever. And then there are times like, oh, this might be the beginning of the coming out party for him. That's what I feel like with him. Really, he just needs that opportunity. And like I said, that's why this is a risky choice, because if he just never ends up getting that opportunity this year, then nothing we can do about it. But Walt Weiss says he's made his point. Like that was his quote. So eyes are open there, and we'll see what happens with Fuentes. But he is my most outside the box prediction for tonight's episode. So I figured we'd kick it off with that one.
Yeah, and I think as we discussed in our NL East preview, that there is a depth issue right now with the injuries, and maybe more to come because of the Murphy's Law situation. Not wishing that on Atlanta fans, but that's how it's been. You know, I mean, I think this is part of the conversation we need to have. So making this a bold pick. And if you want to make a lot of money, by the way, looking at the odds, he's not even listed right now. And I think the longest odd right now is Charlie Condon at plus 4,000, Quinn Matthews plus 4,000, Thomas White, Jonah Tong around that same area. So again, if you feel, I don't even know if he's listed on some of the books, but if you do that, certainly you can make some big money. But it's definitely a bold pick for sure. And I have a bold runner-up. I put some runner-ups in mine as well, because as you said before, even the MVP stuff, I mean, there's certainly chalk we could go with, but we want to make this interesting and have a conversation and feel bold in at least our direction this episode. But this one's the closest I'm probably going to get to chalk in some of these. And I think my AL Rookie of the Year is more out of the box, similar to yours. But JJ Weatherholt is my pick here for NL Rookie of the Year. He's right now the 3rd favorite to do so. You mentioned Connor Griffin and Nolan McLean. They're both sitting at plus 200 and plus 450 respectively. And right now, JJ Weatherholt's plus 500. And one of the things is I like to dive deep into the projections, and there's all these models you could use, whether it's Zips or Steamer, the Bat X. I love Oopsie. And what we're seeing is there's really no discrepancy of the guy. Everyone expects to get really over the 480 to 560 plate appearances, league average to slightly above average production. The WRC plus looks to be around 100 to 108. And I think that level of agreement does signal a little bit of more the evaluation models of saying, we believe that this is a stable offensive baseline, that he can only go up. And the other thing, as we discussed in the NL Central conversation, I think what we're going to see is he has the opportunity to play. As we know, the expectations in St. Louis are not great this year. This is a retooling year. I'm sure they will put that to season ticket holders and saying, we're trying to get better. He's the exciting part of this. They have every reason to throw him out there on the field and give him an opportunity to succeed. We know what the profile is: solid contact ability, roughly to mid-high teen strikeout rate, moderate on base skills, and that gap power. Generally, I mean, the ISO, you can look at some of the power. And the thing I love about him, I don't think he gets enough credit in the scouting reports, is the lack of swing and miss, especially with the power that could come from him. And he's not relying on just one carrying tool. You feel like he could be that level of player to build this new St. Louis Cardinals around. And looking at is all this stuff, the volume I mentioned, that's the big thing I'm looking at him. And the profile for him, I think we look at some of these rookies, the adjustment period and the prolonged slumps that inevitably come with these guys adjusting to the big leagues. Looking at the profile of the player, you could look at some of the other guys listed on this list. Sal Stewart's going to be qualifying again this year. We've seen struggles from young players. It feels like JJ Weatherholt, there's no guy immune to those struggles, but looking at the full profile, I think he easily could be, I wouldn't say slump proof, but maybe slump resistant. And that's something you'd love to see from a young kid.
Yeah, and it's just makeup as well, where like he's stoic and it just doesn't seem like anything bothers him, no matter what the result of his plate appearance was. Can hold his own in the field, can do a little bit of everything. Like, kind of reminds me of my AL choice, which we'll get to in a few minutes. But I like that choice. He's one guy I definitely considered. Some other guys on the list here. I mean, obviously Connor Griffin leads the list at plus 200. We still have not gotten a decision on him as far as last time I looked. Well, will he be with the team or not? Nolan McLean plus 450. Then you get Weatherholt at plus 500. Sal Stewart's another guy that I kicked the tires on at plus 1,000. I've made no secrets about how much I love his profile. Bubba Chandler plus 1,600. Bryce Eldridge, who was sent down to AAA to start, plus 1,800. Carson Benj plus 2,000. I don't know if it's been confirmed yet, but there have been reports that Benj is going to be on the team to start opening day. Logan Henderson of the Brewers plus 2,000 as well. Moises Ballesteros is actually another guy I kicked the tires on, plus 2,000. Plus 2,500. He has also made the team. A guy I think has a shot. Owen Casey plus 2,500. Justin Crawford plus 2,500. Andrew Painter, another guy who has officially made the team, plus 2,500. I'll stop there. We could keep going, but a few guys with some notifications today that they will be with the squad. But yeah, I mean, those are interesting picks there. And I think your guy obviously has a much higher chance, mainly because we know he's going to get an opportunity. And I will say, like, as a position player, you're getting everyday play. And I expect JJ Weatherholt to be a guy, as long as he stays healthy, that could vie to play 160 this year.
Yeah, and I had Ben just one of my main challengers in this race, and I could see him, if you said, and we got Armand is amazing in chat. Shout out to him. He also said Ben is not confirmed. Yeah, we don't know where he's going to be yet. We're waiting for the final announcement, but it feels like there is a space for him. And he also says, "Hey, gents."
Yeah, there was a reporter. There was a reporter today that said they have not officially announced it, but like he has been told, not Benj, the reporter's been told that Benj will be on the team.
Yeah, and for Benj, I like what he brings to the table. Of course, in a great lineup, there's high aspirations. You surround him with a lot of sluggers that maybe he gets to see the pitches that a lot of other these rookies are not going to see. We talk about JJ Weatherholt being that Cardinals lineup.
Right.
It's a different makeup of these teams with different aspirations. And I like whether it's floor and consistency, giving them the edge over a full season, but you never know what happens. We've had rookie of the year races come down to just these outside the box picks that you would be making a lot of money if you were to go out in the beginning of the season. But let's head over to the American League, and I'll start here. And I batted this around for a little bit, and looking at some of the rookie, I have the MGM bets odds up in front of us. And a lot of people are going to go with the Kevin McGonigal. They're going to go with the Kazuma Okamoto or maybe the Trey Savage. I'm going one. Again, he's listed in the top 5. He's plus 600 right now. It's Munetaka Murakami. And that's going against the grain. You read everything about this player. The concerns are obvious and they're real. We've discussed it in the signing. We've discussed it all throughout this offseason. The strikeout rates project to sit in the 29 and in the worst case scenario, 37% range across all these projection models, which is not great. The defensive profile likely pushes him to first base long-term. And there's always the uncertainty translated, as we mentioned, from MPB to MLB. But even with that risk profile, I really like the projected production we're going to be getting from him across a lot of the systems that I was looking at, Zips and Steamer and Oopsie and all those things. he's consistently in the range of 28 to 32 home runs, which typically they're a little bit resistant to give you the power numbers before they get there. And I think Murakami, we could see him in a rookie campaign really drive his conversation of being rookie of the year with a lot of this power. And if he somehow pops for 35 or close to 40 home runs in a season, which is a lot from this guy, maybe the 330, 345 WOBA, WRC plus sitting in the range of a 111, 122 as we're seeing some of the projections. Over a near full season, I think the walk rates remain strong. That could offset some of the strikeouts getting on base. And I think that can stabilize some of the on-base stuff. And I think that's the key to this. I think the biggest piece is getting that strikeout down. If we're looking at a player that's striking out close to 40%, it could be a disaster season for him. And maybe this the landing spot for Chicago is the best case because he can learn on the fly in a lineup that's not expected to win. But I do enjoy the opportunity for Murakami to come out there and become maybe a star. We were talking about this young core. We previewed the AL Central and we discussed Chicago White Sox having some of these players in place. The Colson Montgomerys or whatever the young player you want to place on them of being the main star. Maybe it's Murakami. Maybe he's the guy who can bring some of these international fans over. We saw the WBC success. Murakami is a guy that over a full season, we know that power can accumulate pretty quickly. And maybe that makes some of the baseball writers end of the season give him a little bit of the jump. I know it didn't help Raleigh for the MVP conversation, but if a rookie pops off close to 40 bombs, maybe we're looking at Rookie of the Year award sitting on his mantle.
Yeah, Murakami was one I gave some thought to as well because I mean chicks love the long ball, right? So I think I could see him popping 30, 35. My question to you would be, what batting average do you think he has? I know people will say batting average doesn't matter anymore, but what batting average does he have to pair that home run total with to get, like, where does it, what's that line that like Mendoza line where he can't go under it to be truly considered for winning that award?
I'd be curious to go back and look at other Rookie of the Year awards to see
That's
where
what
that
I was
has
trying to
been
do very
paired with
quickly.
power,
I couldn't
but
find it. Yeah.
I would probably say I'd feel comfortable with like a 240, 235. I think you could you dip below that. You're approaching some weird number because we saw not a rookie, but when Adam Dunn was hitting close to 40 home runs and batting what 180 or some shit like in his season, that's just not a season you can get behind. But the biggest thing is cutting off some of the percentage, snipping those away, getting the walk rate up. And then if you hit close to 35 bombs, I think the conversation's there. But the other piece we have to discuss is other players have to underachieve. Okamoto, his transition to the major leagues can't be as good. Kevin McGonigal would have to struggle. And I'm getting into our postseason predictions. I do not have him struggling. Again, there's other guy, Trey Savage, who's starting the year on the IL this year. We just got that word as well. So hopefully he's back soon. A lot of things have to break right. And again, you want to be bold in these prediction episodes. And I love Murakami. I love the makeup of the player. He seems like he has a sense of humor. He's built for a market like Chicago and a market that's desperate for some winning baseball. And like you said, chicks dig the long ball. I know I said it right this time.
I stumbled over it too. I know last episode.
I know, but mine was worse.
And I stumbled on it.
Mine was worse.
Well, it changed a couple words, but yeah, Murakami I like. And if anyone's listening here live, I'm trying to look for it on the fly and have not been successful. I would be very curious to know what was the lowest batting average by a rookie of the year for either league, like in history. I would love to know that. I'm finding some lists here of like worst rookie of the years ever, but like I actually just want to know the worst batting average. And again, I know there's people listening that are probably like batting average doesn't matter anymore. Man, you got to remember, not everybody's the hardcore baseball fan. People, and you got some old school people voting for the award as well, where batting average is still going to stick out. And if it sticks out like a sore thumb as far as a poor one, it could convince a voter to go a different way. But we'll follow up on that if we can find it before the episode ends. To go to my rookie of the year here too, this is a little more chalk on my side. And you mentioned him twice. You said a lot of people would be going for him, and I am. And it's also related to later when we get to our brackets of who we think is going to succeed as far as getting to the playoffs and then also moving on in the postseason. Kevin McGonigal is my guy. And like you kind of said, he, I believe, is second. There's two guys at plus 475 in the AL, and I'm sure Savage's odds are going to be a little worse after today's news. But Kazuma Okamoto is at plus 475, where I'm looking. McGonigal plus 550. So not the absolute favorite here. We are also still waiting on news for him. AJ Hinch, the manager of the Tigers, was quoted as saying, we're going to take this one down to the wire. So we'll see. I can't read the tea leaves either way on that one, what that means. Did not play in the Tigers spring breakout game tonight. I don't know if that gives us a hint one way or the other. I guess you could probably interpret that either way. It's interesting looking at the projections for McGonigal. Again, like Steve said before, you can pick your favorite one, whether it be Steamer or Zips or Oopsie. I went with the ATC projections over for this one. They have him hitting 254, 13 home runs, 76 RBI, 9 stolen bases, a 111 WRC plus for the season. I think if he starts with the team, like from the jump, I think he'll surpass a lot of those numbers. When I watch McGonigal, man, he just has a fantastic feel for the game. Like he'll do the little things. He'll be sprinting every 2 seconds, taking the extra base, can do everything on the field. I think he has more speed than people realized. So I do think he would likely surpass those numbers. And I hope he starts with the team. I think he's going to be a key cog, not just a role player for the Tigers this year. I think he's going to be a key cog in that machine that is the Detroit Tigers to try to get back to the postseason and kind of take that next step, because they've gotten there now a couple times recently, and now they need to hopefully go a little further, especially in what could be Tarek Skubal's final year in Detroit. So McGonigal is my guy. I love the player. Another guy, I need to get a card of his. I need to go on eBay and try. I've tried a few times. I missed out on some bids, but I try not to break the bank on these things, but find some deals. So McGonigal's my guy.
Yeah, I love that pick. I love the player. As I said, I'll talk more about him as we get through the postseason conversation. Like we said, we have Armand Ismazen in the chat. He says, I like Basayo for rookie of the year, and I see him hitting 30+ home runs. Another guy I considered. We love him in Baltimore. He's definitely going to get the at-bats, and I love him in that ballpark. He's also doing some of the research on the fly for us. I'm doing the same thing over here, and it's hard to find the accurate stuff, but he said per Google AI, so let's caveat that. 2020 and Drake Baldwin, 2025 said Kyle Lewis was 2020 for AL. Lewis won with a 262 batting average, and Baldwin won with a 274. He's also talking about Joe Warrick in 1884, but I believe the Rookie of the Year wasn't awarded until 1947. So I don't believe that there is. If I'm looking at my stats right, I don't think Rookie of the Year was established till later down the line. But either way, we'd have to get the batting average up. If he's sitting at, maybe we'll set the line at 230. If he's sitting below that, the numbers would have to be super out of this world as far as the RBIs, and especially in that lineup. If he's going to hit for power and he has some of the other power numbers and slugging numbers up, I think he can convince some voters. And also you got to consider this is the transition of being in the major leagues with being from Japan and all that. And I really enjoy just the idea of some of these players making their name. And how often are we seeing two players at the same time, with Okamoto doing with the Jays, and we got Murakami doing it with the White Sox as well. But let's move over to the NL Cy Young. And I'll let you start off here. I know that we're going to go switching back and forth. And this is where we're getting into, do we decide to go chalk, or are we going to make it interesting? So I'll volley to you first. And if you're going to see if you're going to go chalk or try to make this interesting.
All right, just very quickly, just to finish up before we start this conversation. It's the AI stuff, man. I've said this to you a few times. Like I've tried using it a few times just to quickly find some stats from prior years and things. And like, they'll put stuff out there where I immediately know it's incorrect. And I'm just like, what? They're not even looking at the right year. And I guess certain AIs are better and it's improving. So all baseball fans out there, like, be very careful with this stuff. And I know Armand is amazing, just kind of tried to find something quickly, but like right off the bat, I have this article from Bleacher Report, which it's an old article too. So it's not going to have the last like 10 years or so, but they have, I'm going to pronounce this wrong, Jim LaFave for the Dodgers in 1965, winning the award with just a 250 batting average. And they also have Walt Weiss winning the award in 1988 amongst a weak group of contenders with a 250 batting average. So those both lower than that Kyle Lewis number that we just mentioned a minute ago. But again, even those are not confirmed. This is a list of like worst Rookie of the Year winners ever. According to this writer, it's not necessarily like worst numbers. So, but we know the number's at least down at 250 from what I just found quickly. So we'll continue that research. But all right, Cy Young, we're starting with NL, you said?
Yeah, National League. Let's go there first.
Okay, so this is not chalk, but it's not super far down the list. There's a few of these things, and like I said earlier in the episode, sometimes I'm able to pull myself away from the favorite, and others I just can't get off of it for good reason. This one, I was just trying to get off Paul Skeens, even though I love him, and even though, like I said in the NL Central preview episode we did, I have the Pirates sneaking into the playoffs this year, which is probably a bold enough prediction on its own. And so obviously, if they're making the playoffs, in my mind, Paul Skeens is going to be a huge contributor to that. But I think Christopher Sanchez comes through and grabs the award this year. Phillies opening day starter. Going to get that spotlight with Zach Wheeler still on the comeback trail. The slider and the changeup will play against absolutely anybody. He looked great in WBC, looks great in spring. Going to create high whiff rates with those two pitches, only getting better. To me, there's not a whole lot. This is not like with the Fuentes thing, I felt like I had to prove my point with as many numbers as possible, right? Because that's an outside the box one. Christopher Sanchez, for the last, 3 years or so, has been as consistent and dominant as a pitcher as we have seen in the bigs. And I feel like 3 years ago when he did it, it was kind of like, oh, where's this guy coming from? And then he's just backed it up each year since then. Like he is a top 5, you'd say, a starting pitcher in the game, at top 10 at the very, very least. And like I said, I think he's continuing to get better. So I will say Christopher Sanchez is able to surpass Paul Skeens this year.
So I wish I had someone different. Devin and I don't compare notes on the way in. So Christopher Sanchez is also my NL Cy Young as well. Of course, Paul Skeens is hovering around there as well for me. Everything you said, I agree with. I mean, the thing is, it feels like we haven't seen the best from him. We already saw greatness from him already. And I feel like he's just going to get better with the poise. And there's something about the intangibles, about having the presence on the mound. He certainly has that. You mentioned just all the different moments we've seen from him. He's one of the few arms consistently projected to push toward or beyond 200 innings, which is not a guarantee in 2026 and beyond. And I really like, especially as he's grown as a pitcher, he limits damage. He plays in a very hitter-friendly park, and he keeps the ball in the yard. That's the biggest thing. He avoids self-inflicted innings. He doesn't make errors. He delivers. That's what it is. And he's a guy, again, we mentioned Zach Wheeler being out in our NL East. We're not going to belabor that point. But I think what truly separates him, kind of what you were saying, is the projected volume in an environment where many of the frontline starters fall in this range. Or what are you going to say, 170 to 190? Those are like where their top is. I feel like we're going to see him as long as he's healthy. Knock on wood, 200 innings is almost an outlier season from a lot of guys, but it's the expected from Chris Sanchez. And I compounds the value over time, and especially pair that with voters. And maybe people don't agree with this, but when a team is competitive and they win the division and they have success, a lot of times you look at the players that are on board of that ship, and he projects as the clear statistical anchor or maybe the narrative of that success, especially with Wheeler being out for the first portion of the season. Again, he may not have this like single overpowering arsenal, but sit and watch him pitch. It's like an artist painting. It's amazing.
Yeah, and just to say, if we are both wrong and Paul Skeens gets another one, I mean, what a first 3 seasons that would be for Skeens if he could do Rookie of the Year followed up by back-to-back Cy Youngs. Like, that'd be another thing to look up. Like, has that happened before? And if so, how many times? I don't know. That's a pretty good combination. And listen, we know Paul Skeens has as good of a chance as anybody, obviously. I want to look at the odds very quickly.
I got him in front of me over here.
You got him? All right, give me the odds for the first leg. Yeah.
You want just BetMGM to be consistent. So plus 220 for Skeens. Yamamoto's plus 550. Chris Sanchez is plus 700. Chris Sale is plus 1,100. Logan Webb's plus 1,700. And then we move down to Zach Wheeler plus 1,900. Freddie Peralta plus 25. Blake Snell's thrown in there as well. You got some other names. We're going to start to move into territory that feels unlikely, but Christopher Sanchez is top 3 choice. So this is not chalk, as you mentioned, but there's 2 guys that probably be a little bit more of the favorites, Yamamoto and Paul Skeens, going into the season for the National League.
There's some good, good bets to, get some good money back if you want to take some people on the edge out there, like Yuri Perez at plus 3,500. We know what that guy's ceiling. It seems pretty damn high. Another one that stood out here, where was it? Cade Horton, again, has looked filthy at times in spring. I think last year, second half, he added that changeup, which he is just spamming to left-handed hitters and dominating them with. And was the best ERA in the second half last year, Cade Horton. So that's a plus 6,600. But if you want to try to get money back and take someone on the outside there, those are 2 interesting ones. I mean, the fact that Horton is plus 6,600, which is the same odds as Aaron Nola, who looked awful last year. The same odds as Shota, who looked awful last year. Like, I think that's kind of a nice bet. Personally, I hope it's Freddie Peralta as a Met fan in his first year in orange and blue. But all right, both going Christopher Sanchez. I mean, to be honest, I don't know if that's a good sign for Christopher Sanchez, because last year, you and I looked back, I'm pretty sure the only award prediction you and I had the same last year was NL Rookie of the Year. We both took Dylan Cruz, and that did not go well.
Now he's taking the bus back to AAA, as we saw this year.
Yeah.
Armin is amazing in the chat. He's saying that he likes Sandy at plus 5,000. Yeah, look at some of the names that are above that. Seeing at you got guys in the same ilk of the Glasnows and Nolan McLean, and even I think Jacob Mizorowski is over them as well, which is kind of crazy. Plus 3,000. I would think I understand Sandy's coming off of the damaged year. He's playing in Miami. I get all of that, but Mizorowski, like, is he going to get enough innings in there to get? I don't know. It feels like a good bet. I agree. Plus 5,000. That might increase as the year goes on.
Yeah. All right. Let's head over to AL here. I'll start just because mine's boring. I'm taking chalk. Sorry. I'm taking Tarek Skubal to do something that only Randy Johnson and Greg Maddux have done before. They are the only pitchers to win 3 Cy Youngs in a row. In fact, those two actually won 4 in a row each. But I am taking Tarek Skubal in his walk year in Detroit to lead Detroit as far as possible. And we'll get to our predictions later, obviously, as far as, playoffs and who's going the furthest. But I almost convinced myself to take him as AL MVP in the style of 2015 Clayton Kershaw. Didn't quite get there just because of certain people that play in the American League and pitchers only playing it once every 5th day. It's really, really tough. Sometimes it's not. For a pitcher to win MVP, they have to have an amazing year, and the field has to be kind of weak, at least in my mind. I kind of think that's true. But I think Tarek Skubal is, listen, there's no other guy that can do what he does as far as the strikeout percentage and the lack of walks. He's just unreal. I will say, this as I was making these predictions, there was something that caught my eye that scared me a little bit. His velocity was down across the board today in his final tune-up. Hoping that was by design, like just kind of trying to cruise to the finish line, not over exert yourself in your last spring training start. But it's not something you want to see. And like the velocity was like significantly down, where like almost 2 miles per hour in certain places and like all across the board. So obviously it gets your attention in this day and age, right? When everyone's looking at Baseball Savant and breaking every single pitch down, like those things are going to catch your eye because sometimes there's signs of injury, but I haven't heard anything. So my guess is it's not a big deal. But I'm going Tarek Skubal here. I think he gets his 3rd in a row.
I think they're calling out the post WBC blues for Tarek Skubal. That just takes a couple ticks off the velocity. He'll be fine. I agree, but it does catch your eye when you see it because a guy who's just electric at all times, and maybe he's just biding time for the beginning of the season. And you took the guy at the top. I'm going Garrett Crochet, and I understand that might be. He's plus 400. Tarek Skubal is plus 300. So we're looking at 2 guys that are head and shoulders above the rest of the field, because the runner up to that is plus 1,000 on BetMGM with Jacob deGrom, and then Cole Raggins at plus 1,100. So most bettors believe, or even sports books believe, Garrett Crochet or Tarek Skubal, barring some injury, are going to win the Cy Young Award, and for the right reasons, because you watch these pitchers. Everything you said about Tarek Skubal, we could have said about Garrett Crochet last year. They just happen to be competing against each other. Garrett Crochet, I think people use the word workhorse, and I think that's even putting it lightly. He's the modern version of just pitching dominance. And the guy, he's not a pitch to contact profile. It's a bat missing engine that carries a meaningful workload. And we watch him get better as the year went on. And in big moments, he just went out there and carried the Boston Red Sox when they needed him. And what makes this compelling, again, you want to look at just projecting in a vacuum. He's a guy that already showed that what this looks like over a full course of the year. That was the questions going into when they made the trade. Can he sustain the big workload?
Right.
Last year, 205.1 innings, 2.59 ERA, a FIP at 2.89. His strikeout per 9 was 11.18. This is a guy who's just an absolute frontline ace, and he's dominant. And he's been durable, because the questions going into when he came over from Chicago, can he do it? Can he be durable? And the projections kind of show that, similar to what I was talking about with Chris Sanchez improving. A lot of the projections by all models have him getting better, which is scary for the rest of the American League, scary for the rest of the league at large. And all the combination of the control and the strikeout, all of that, it's a difficult combination to replicate. He has high-end bat missing stuff paired with the command. He doesn't walk anybody. And what pushes him into the Cy Young territory is wanting to build on last year and using last year as a building block and wanting to win, playing meaningful games in the AL East. It's not just about the strikeouts. It's not just about sustaining elite strikeout production. I understand that. I just see a guy that wants to win. He's competitive beyond belief. Tarek Skubal has the same gene. These two guys are head and shoulders above everybody else. And Garrett Crochet is going to be a nightmare for my New York Yankees, a nightmare for the rest of the American League. And I have him hosting that trophy on his mantle for a very long time.
Yeah, and it does help to play in a city like Boston, so front and center as far as baseball goes. And I mean, I think playing in Detroit for Skubal is pretty good market as well. But anytime you play for the Bostons, the New Yorks, right, the Philadelphia, like the LAs, like it does put you kind of media attention in a different stratosphere to a degree. And he was super close to Skubal last year. It led the league in strikeouts overall. Like I will say your point about his durability is what I've been most impressed about, because that was the knock on him. Like when he became a starter and the White Sox then limited it, and probably because they're protecting their investment, obviously, when he was starting to kind of break out. But he has answered the bell. He's answered every question. And I have the Red Sox, as I said in the AL East episode, I have them just missing the playoffs and the kind of the Orioles sneaking in above them. And I know you have the Red Sox making it. Listen, I do love that rotation, as I stated in that episode. And if they're dominant, especially at the top, and I like the Crochet and Ranger Suarez, combination, even Sonny Gray, right? Like then I'm gonna have a hard time sticking by my prediction of them missing. It's just that division obviously is so jam packed. But yeah, I love the Crochet pick. I don't think you can go wrong with either of those, Skubal and Crochet. Honestly, I thought for a second maybe this would be one of your outside the box ones. A few years ago, I believe he was still pitching for the Rays at the time. You went way outside the box and were going with Zach Eflin, who, by the way, looked fantastic today, going 5 innings for Baltimore.
Every once in a while, he pulls it out and just makes me fall in love all over again. I still love Zach Eflin, but
comeback player of the year, maybe.
Yeah, I just the divide between these two pitchers and the rest of the American League. I don't know if there's ever been a case where you have two arms being that much better than everybody else in maybe the history of baseball right now. And I don't know, that might be hyperbole. It's rough out there for anybody else.
It's a very interesting list because, like you said, you have Skubal and Crochet way ahead of the field, plus 300 Skubal, plus 400 Crochet. Jacob deGrom is the next closest when you get past those two at plus 1,100. Yeah, plus 1,100 where you're looking. Cole Raggins is plus 1,100 where I'm looking. It's like he barely pitched last season. I know the metrics love him, right? And I get it. If he's okay, he's great. But I'd have Hunter Brown above him, who's the next guy, plus 1,400. Max Fried also plus 1,400. The pick as far as a betting situation, I'm going Skubal, but in a betting situation where I'm looking to make money, Brian Wu at plus 1,600. I really, really like that. I'm a big fan of that one.
Oh, for sure. Brian Wu is a guy that you look at that feels like he could take the next step. I always think we're going to see that with Logan Gilbert, but maybe it's always been Brian Wu in that staff out of everybody in there. Like everyone's waiting for Logan Gilbert to turn into what Jacob deGrom was, but maybe it's always been Brian Wu. We saw spurts of it last year and helped a large portion of the success. Not that Logan Gilbert didn't, but Brian Wu to me was just unbelievable. If he wants to take the next step, he could be a Cy Young in the future. But let's get to the National League MVP, and I'll start here. Again, it's hard to have this conversation and not think about all the best players in the league. And again, chalk would be Shohei Ohtani. This is a guy who's done it time and time again. And there was murmurings in my brain of going Ronald Acuna Jr. just because of looking at the pattern. But I'm going Juan Soto. And I think it comes down to one thing. It's not just the production. It's about a guy who is now going to be a little bit more comfortable. You referenced this in the National League East preview. We know what Juan Soto has done year in, year out. He's a guy, you put it in our poll, who would you want to build a team around if you had to win a World Series this year? For all of the detractors for last year, for the New York Mets season, and I understand it didn't go the way they wanted to go, it wasn't Juan Soto's fault. 43 home runs, a 396 on base, 156 WRC plus, over 715 plate appearances. This is a guy who did his job. And I think he took last year a little bit personally, and watching the WBC carrying momentum and all the things we saw with the Dominican Republic and all the great vibes, I think that's carrying into this season. And let's not forget the Mets shaking up this clubhouse and maybe figuring it out to get more personality in there. That's a different vibe. Maybe it feels more like Juan Soto's team. Maybe that will be better for him. And the projections kind of say that everything's going in a further direction. He's sitting around a 400 WOBA, 160 WRC plus, mid to high 30 home runs. So all those numbers, another full workload kind of shows you that it's death taxes and Juan Soto putting an MVP caliber season. Now, the question is for Juan Soto is, will Shohei Ohtani be better than me? Yeah, that's the possibility. Juan Soto is a guy who built a lot of his game around the power and not striking out and getting on base. He added the stolen bases to his repertoire last year, which was amazing to see. I'm not saying he's going to do that this year. Maybe it was all the first base coach or the guy who was given to him. I know he's no longer with the team.
Antoine Richardson. Yeah.
Now he's with Atlanta. So I think for Juan Soto, I like, and sometimes you don't want to go with just gut and feel, but I can't help but feel he's in there to prove it. I think last year sticks in his craw a little bit, and I think he does not like the way it went. And it's, again, not his fault. I don't think you could put any of the losses on him. But watching what he did last year in a quote unquote down year, what does an up look like here in Queens? And I think we're going to see it this year.
Yeah, between last year, how it ended for the Mets, and then this year with the DR thing and him having, he has a chip on his shoulder here. And even before that, even before the WBC, he in some interview, he was quoted as saying, like, tell Shohei I'm coming for him, like, as far as the MVP goes. Like, he's motivated, like he wants it. He's made no bones about it. But like, I almost went with Soto as well. And obviously, as a Met fan, like, if he's winning the MVP, I'm ecstatic, because that should mean some really good things for our squad. But I just couldn't quite get myself there. Listen, he might outperform Shohei offensively, maybe not in the power department, but like overall, Shohei's going to probably strike out more than Soto and things like that. And Shohei, even though he did the 50-50 season last year, 2 years ago, last year he didn't really go for the stolen bases. So I don't know if that's going to be part of his game or not. But with Ohtani, and to be fair, we don't know if it's going to be part of Soto's game again. That could also be a one season thing. We just don't know. But Ohtani, listen, he's going to be pitching for the whole year this time. Like last year, he pitched for part of the year. This year, going to be pitching the whole year, as far as we know, if everything goes well and, health is fine. So it just increases his chances so much. And that's why I couldn't help myself but go with Ohtani. And this is the second year in a row I've taken Ohtani in the prediction episode for NL MVP. I know it's boring. It's just like, you can definitely get to Soto and reason for him. Past that, it's really hard to actually believe what you're saying if you try to take somebody else. And Ohtani is a really, really good pitcher and a unbelievable once-in-a-lifetime offensive player. I think that combination, it's just going to be impossible to overcome. Soto could have the best season of his career. If Ohtani does really well on the mound and has a regular offensive season, you can't do anything about it.
Yeah, and I think for Shohei Ohtani, and it's always on the tip of your tongue, similar to Skeens. I don't know if there's ever been a timeline in baseball where you look at the Ohtani for the Cy Young Awards and you look at the MVP awards. And again, you can make the same case for the next one we're going to be talking about, where there's a distinct favorite at this level. And even when we started doing the show, I think when we first did that, and maybe it was because Shohei was hurt and there was a question mark about whether he'd play the full year and the Dodgers were resting people. But looking at it, the top of the list for all the betting odds, and usually it doesn't go chalk across the board, but seeing the distinct favorites, it feels like your gut wants to go there, and it doesn't feel out of the norm to say, just go with Shohei Ohtani, because you just know exactly what it's going to be if he's on the field. But I like that pick. There's no way around it. Like, if he's on the field and he's doing what he's doing, he's going to win the MVP. It's just a matter if he stays healthy, and we've seen him have some injury stuff, but I can't see a world where he's playing 145, 150 games and not winning the MVP. It's a matter of, like, if he's on the field, he's winning it.
That's the thing. It's just like, I think until I see it, I can't pick against him. That's just the territory he's in right now.
So let's go with the American League MVP. I think I started last, so let you start first with the American League MVP.
All right. Well, both of my MVP picks are boring. Sorry, guys, but it's Aaron Judge. It's very similar. Like, you could kind of copy paste what I said about Ohtani, but except for the pitching part, obviously. It's kind of like I tried to go against him last year in these predictions. I think I took Bobby Witt Jr. Because I thought the Royals were going to go to the playoffs, and I thought it was going to be Bobby Witt Jr. just dragging them there. And that didn't happen. This year, Bobby Witt Jr., by the way, I feel like has more help. I've said this before. I think Vinny's going to have a really good season. I think Jack Caglione has a very good chance to actually put it together this year. And we could go further. Carter Jensen, obviously Salvi's still there. I think they're in pretty good shape, especially if Cole Ragans and Chris Bubich are healthy at the top of the rotation. And I do have the Royals going to the playoffs, as you'll see in our bracket. But Aaron Judge, man, like say what you will. Obviously all the knocks on him recently about clutch. Is he clutch or not? We haven't really seen him come through in these situations, whether it be postseason or now the WBC. I get it, man. But when the regular season lights are on, he's going to do his thing. And again, the only thing similar to Ohtani, the only thing I think that can take him down is injury. And we're not going to sit here and wish injury upon anyone. So Aaron Judge is my guy. We look at the odds here. That's actually last year's results. Hold on. He's what? Plus 200. So the odds are not as crazy favored as Ohtani is, who's like minus 145 or something. But plus 200 for Judge, plus 500 for Bobby Witt, Cal Raleigh plus 800, Julio Rodriguez plus 1200. If he could ever get off to a fast start, Julio has a good chance because he does everything: defense, stolen bases, home runs, everything. Gunnar Henderson, who I almost went with as like a bounce back huge season in that should be great offense this year, plus 1600. Jose Ramirez, who probably should be better than plus 1600, which what he does every year. For me, it's like if Cal Raleigh and his 60 home runs could not take Aaron Judge down in what was an amazing year for Aaron Judge, but probably not his best ever. Depending on which way you look at it, I guess. Like, what's taking him down? A 60 home run catcher is not taking him down. So I can't go against Aaron Judge this year.
And again, I thought the same thing for Judge, and I considered Bobby Witt, and I consider some of the other guys at the top. I went bold on this one, and it's kind of blurring into my bold predictions. I'm going Junior Caminero. And what we saw from him last year, 45 bombs last year. And I understand they played in Tampa, Steinbrenner Field, and they're going back to the Trop, which is still a hitter-friendly park, not as hitter-friendly. I guess we have to see how the new ballpark plays. They made some changes that does come to effect with ballpark effects, but 110 RBIs. This is a guy who's entering his age 22 season. I just love everything about him. I think this is the year he makes the leap into superstardom. It's going to take a Herculean effort to overthrow Judge, as you mentioned. But I do believe that Junior Caminero, he eventually will be an MVP. And to do it in age 22, that'd be a superstar. And the other thing, if you pair it with my bracket, you might be saying, hey, you don't have the Rays in the playoffs. How is that possible? Well, we've seen other teams have down years, not make the playoffs and have an MVP. I think of Alex Rodriguez with the Texas Rangers having a crazy year. And I think that's what we could see from a Junior Caminero this year. He has the skill set to do it. And maybe it's just the allure of the shadow of the WBC casting over my opinion, just watching him out there and doing what he does with that team. And maybe that kind of opinionated me with Juan Soto, but Junior Caminero is just a special, special player. And we're just lucky to watch him. So I think he's going to be the MVP.
I love the pick. So I just did a few days ago. I'm in an AL only league, categories league, and we had 3 keepers each. I ended up keeping Wyatt Langford, Luke Keeschel. Love that combination right there. If you consider stolen bases and everything those two can do, and then Hunter Brown, I kept on the pitching side. But I had the 3rd pick in the draft. I forget who went first, who was still available. I just have a mental block for some reason. And then the second guy took Julio Rodriguez, who was out there. And I was able to snag Junior Caminero, and I was excited. I haven't owned him in any league in any capacity yet. Very excited to have him. So I love that pick. But looking here at the last 3 years, Aaron Judge, 26.2 F4. I actually thought he'd be further ahead of everybody else. Bobby Witt Jr. is second over the last 3 seasons, 2023, 2024, 2025, at 24.4 F4. So he's closer to Judge than I thought. And obviously, like, the defense, the speed is going to help him catch up. Shohei Ohtani, 23 F4. Juan Soto, 20.3. Francisco Lindor, 19.5. Cal Raleigh, who, last season shot him up this list. If you look at 3 years, 18.8. Jose Ramirez, 17.4. Gunnar Henderson, even with a bad year last year, 17.3 over the last 3 years. So you do have Judge at the top of that list, and I think he's going to stay there after this year. But again, love the Caminero pick. That it's bold, but like bold in the way of everybody can understand like why you'd be willing to go there.
Yeah, when I was diving into his numbers, you almost forget that he hit 45 last year. I understand people maybe discount it because it happened with the Rays and it happened at Steinbrenner Field.
Right.
Yeah, I think those things factor, but this is a player that shows this skill set, and I'd be curious to watch the split and look up the split of the home and away home runs, but it felt like it was pretty balanced. And if I remember, I'll find out while we're talking about other stuff, but it feels like Junior was a little bit more balanced than people were giving him credit for. and he's age 22. And the young stars in baseball, we continue to say it. There is just an unbelievable influx of talent that's still on its way, by the way. We're watching college baseball producing a lot of these stars internationally. The WBC was quite the show. So, I mean, you guys can just, everyone, as long as baseball doesn't get in its own way, we're in a really good spot to be in. I mean, we talked about 10 plus million people watching Venezuela versus the United States in that final. Baseball's in a really, really good spot. And it starts and ends with this young talent that is just unbelievable.
Dude, I love these guys from Venezuela who are now back in their big league camps, like all repping
Oh, the
their
Mendoza thing was
medals.
great. It was great.
Oh, well, so yeah, Carlos Mendoza, manager of the Mets, like embracing the Venezuela's manager when they played Houston, like that embrace was, I mean, it was emotional, but really, really cool to see. Like you could see how much it means to even the guys that, weren't a part of the team, but were obviously pulling for Venezuela as their home country. But also, like, Acuna has, I think, his jersey and his medal hanging up in his locker for everyone to see. Andres Jimenez was wearing, I think, the Venezuela jersey in his first practice back in Blue Jays camp. There was a few other ones I see, but like the pride and it's really cool because often athletes in a lot of ways are like, they act like too cool for different kinds of things. Like, not this, man. We saw it on the hockey side. It meant everything to them. Baseball side, same. And obviously the U.S. getting a lot of shit from everybody that it doesn't mean as much, which Judge actually came out and talked about today as far as like, I think we just show it differently. And I think he made a good point, but I also get people's criticism in a way. Like, I understand it. But so moving on here, we're going to get, before we get to our brackets, Steve and I each, I believe, have 3 bold predictions. This is very in vogue at this time of year. I've seen every baseball person on Twitter putting up their bold predictions, sometimes a list of 5 to 10 different things. We have not done this yet. After the episode's out, maybe we'll put them in writing as well. So if someone didn't hear the episode, they can react to them that way. But this is what I want to do, Steve. We'll bounce back and forth. I'll do one, you'll do one until we're all done. But after each person does it, so after I do my first one, I want you to rate the bold prediction on a scale of how bold, from 1 to 5, 5 being the most bold. And maybe you can kind of take that as you want it. Maybe if you rate it a 5, that means you think it's so bold because like there's almost no chance it actually can happen. And if it's a 1, it's like, hey, I don't even think that's very bold. Like, that's just probably going to happen. All right.
Okay.
And obviously everyone listening, whether it's live or the next day, play along with us in your head and then see where we stand here. All right. So I'm going to start with a guy who, as this episode was recording, I saw that he hit his 7th home run of the spring. Mr. Shea Langoliers, who was one of the hottest hitters in the league in the second half last year. If you look at his second half numbers, he was basically better than Cal Raleigh, who was obviously getting all the attention at catcher, and just not just at catcher, just everywhere, for good reason, by the way. But Langoliers has taken that crazy second half and just continued to carry it. Here's the bold prediction number 1 for me. Shea Langoliers is going to lead the American League in home runs. And there's a few things in my mind that makes that bold. Number 1 is it would be the 2nd straight year a catcher would do that, which just is, you don't think of catchers as leading the league in home runs because a lot of them don't play every day. But it's changed a little bit with the DH stuff. And that helped Cal Raleigh stay in the lineup almost every single day and not have to catch every single day. So Langoliers, you also have the ballpark that favors him a little bit. But it's also bold because you're saying he's going to out home run his own teammate, Nick Kurtz, right? And guys like Brent Rooker as well. And of course, my AL MVP vote, Aaron Judge, I'm saying he's going to out homer him. So that's my first bold prediction. Give me your ranking or rating here, 1 to 5 in boldness.
I say it's bold. I'm going to give you a 3.5 going between it. Considering the ballpark, I think I would give it a 4, almost a 5 if he wasn't playing there. I think that's how much Sacramento plays. But it is bold because, as you said before, there's a guy in his lineup that probably feels like he could hit more, and then also the guys that have hit before. But if he does, it wouldn't shock me. There's a reason why they call him Shea Langoliers. But what are you talking? Are we gonna have a down year in power, or are we going to have him hitting almost 60 home runs? Because
I'm not saying
having 2 years back to back hitting 60 home runs would be wild. That would be fold.
Yeah, that would be crazy. No, I don't think he's going Cal Raleigh 60, but I'm going mid to high 40s for Langoliers here and going a little nuts and saying that that's going to be enough to lead the AL in home runs.
I love it, but I'm going to with my bold prediction here, and I'm going to say Brian Wu will finish 2nd in Cy Young this year. and he'll firmly cement himself as a contender to become the ace of the staff. I think we already believe he's there, but it will be no question going into next year. I think we're going to see a sub 2.5 ERA from him. And I also think he's going to push his K rate over 11, close to where Garrett Crochet is, which is something that he hasn't really done. I think last year, striking out close to 9 per 9. So I think if he could push it double digits and lower the ERA by a full run, we're looking at a Cy Young contender. And I think if it pushes him firmly in that conversation, he'll get a lot of votes, but he'll fall behind Garrett Crochet, as I mentioned.
I will give that. I'm not going to go super high here. Maybe it's just how much I like Woo. I'm going to say that's a 2 in boldness, just because I'd feel pretty good about it. He's last year. I mean, he's a quality start machine. He was on some crazy streak last year, I believe it was, of like how many in a row, and he also finished 5th in Cy Young voting last year. So to say he would be top 2, or I think is doable for sure. So I'm not going to go 1. I'm not saying it's not bold at all, because he's never done that before. But I'll go a 2 ranking for your first bold prediction there.
All right, you want me to go my second, then we'll go back to you?
Sure, let's do that.
Little snake draft. All right, so I'm going to go with my second bold prediction. Ivan Herrera will become the most productive offensive catcher in the National League this year, going and really redefining that lineup for St. Louis. And looking at some of the numbers that he's going to be put up, he's going to firmly cement himself above everybody else in the National League as far as catchers go.
Okay. I'm just trying to get a list here very quickly in front of me. And when you say outproduce, just like what are you looking at as far as production here? Like what kind of metrics are we thinking?
I would just look at the straight number of WAR. He'll have more WAR in one single season than every other National League catcher.
Okay. It's fair. I like Herrera a lot, and I think he's underrated for multiple reasons, partly because of where he's played at. Cardinals haven't really been relevant. That one's pretty bold. I'm going to be honest. I don't think it's impossible. I mean, looking at the list of catchers here, I'd be surprised still. I like it. I'm going to give it a 4. Because I do think it's within the realm of possibility. I don't think it's a 5 where it's like, hey, that's not happening. I'd be very, very surprised if he truly outproduces every single catcher in the National League in WAR, the Will Smiths of the world that plays for a team like the Dodgers that are going to score 1 million runs, things like that. Drake Baldwin, who won Rookie of the Year, also plays in a good offense. So that is bold for sure. I'll give it a 4. All right, I'm going to go to my second one here. And this is more kind of personnel and not stats driven. Corey Seager is going to be traded during the season. And I have the Yankees as the leading candidate. I'm not necessarily guaranteeing that part of the prediction. So the bold prediction really is just that Corey Seager is going to be traded mid-season, which, listen, in the midst of, I think that contract goes to 2031. So whoever was acquiring him would be taking on quite a few years there and quite a lot of money. And I think that kind of trade does not typically go down mid-season. For a player of that level with that much left on the contract, I think that's more of an off-season deal. But I'm going to say things are not going to go well or go the way the Rangers want, which if you listen to the AL West episode, I do not have them in the playoffs. I think I have them finishing, I guess, 3rd, right? I went Houston 2nd and Seattle 1st. So I think things get frustrating in Texas, and they make a big move with Corey Seager before he enters a decline phase where the value is just not going to be there. And obviously, part of that bold prediction is that he's going to be healthy at that point too.
Yeah, I think for the biggest and boldest thing about that would be the Yankees eating the salary. So maybe something be negotiated with Texas, because as you mentioned, he's getting 31.5 this year, going towards 2031, which would be his age 37 season. But I do see him being moved, though. If there is a conversation, there's some amenities being made as far as the money goes. He could be a valuable player this year for the New York Yankees. It makes too much sense. There was conversation in the beginning of this offseason. You and I were bouncing back and forth that Seager would fit. I think they need some bang, especially we discussed Volpe, and if he comes back with the shoulder is for Caballero, it's nice in a short burst and the versatility you like from the defensive side of things. But what makes Caballero valuable is that he's versatile. He could play all over the field and also give you quality defense, but who knows what he's going to look like as far as being their starting shortstop. And biggest question mark is Volpe. And if he winds up being the player he was last year, that he was just an outlier as far as defense goes, and offense, he wasn't doing anything and striking out, Corey Seager could be the answer. So I'll give it a 2.5 just because the money makes it pretty bold for Brian Cashman and the boys over there to actually go out and empty the pocketbook for a guy who's in the decline. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, I mean, he's still, I mean, listen, he's a pure hitter. It's not like he's falling off a cliff. I think health is the bigger problem with buying a guy like that. Is he actually going to be able to stay on the field? But he just feels like a guy that is going to play with the Yankees at the end of his career here. I don't know. He just has that feel. Maybe this is the year the Yankees make that big move during the season that their fans have been so desperate for years now. I know they have a lot of big contracts.
Somewhere on the scale of Troy Tulowitzki or A-Rod as far as playing. So we got Troy Tulowitzki on the downslide. Or Josh Donaldson might be a better comp, maybe a little bit higher than Donaldson where he was.
Yeah, a little higher than Donaldson. Yeah.
Donaldson had a good year his first year at the Yanks, if I remember.
Yeah, for sure.
But I'm hesitant to give you my last bold pick because it blurs into my bracket. So I don't know if I should do that and spoil the bracket, or I'll leave it to you because I'll give it to you and then we can blur right into the bracket. I'll let you go first.
Okay, sure. Okay, well, this one goes into mine a little bit too. But all right, so my third is Framber Valdez is going to finish in the top 3 in Cy Young voting, which means I already picked Tarek Skubal to finish winning it. His teammate is also going to be in the top 3. So some people might be getting a sneak preview into what my bracket looks like because I'm pretty high on a few of these guys wearing a Detroit uniform. McGonigal, AL Rookie of the Year, it was my pick. Tarek Skubal, AL Cy Young was my pick. Framber Valdez, I think I've loved what he's looked like in spring, and I know it's just spring training. And the reason I consider this bold is not only 2 teammates in the top 3, but also so many people. It seemed like the whole baseball world is down and out on Framber Valdez. I don't know, man. I think he's got some left in the tank and I don't mean just this year. I think he's got a few really good years left. And obviously Detroit does too, because he seems to be like their backup solution to Skubal leaving after this year.
I just can't believe, you and I don't compare notes at all. I cannot believe that our bracket is going to be almost identical. I can't. I just
it can't be identical because we don't have all the same playoff teams. So maybe the ending is starting to sound like it's going to be the same. But
so my bold prediction pushes into that, and it's super bold. So I mean, you might have to break the scale for it.
Before we get to it? Hold on. Give me the ranking 1 to 5 of the Framber one.
Framber, I give that a 3 because I do think there is some boldness to it because there are question marks. There's no doubt about it. But I love Framber as well. I think he has a chance. What's the high? A good question out there is what's the highest he's ever reached as far as Cy Young finishing?
Cy Young, I'm going to look it up right now as you give us yours. That sounds like it's going to be like a 6 on
it might be a 10. So my bold prediction is I have a matchup in the World Series of River Ryan taking the bump and Tarek Skubal taking the bump. Now the deal is you can probably put it out there. You have the Detroit Tigers playing the Los Angeles Dodgers, but mid-season trade deadline.
I know where you're going.
Those Detroit Tigers fell out of it. They thought they didn't have a shot, but they climb out of the depths of hell and win the division despite trading Tarek Skubal to the Dodgers. And we have a Tarek Skubal starting for the Dodgers against the Detroit Tigers, overcoming all the odds and getting to the World Series. So,
I mean,
even bolder prediction is River Ryan wins that matchup and the Dodgers still win the World Series.
Wait. So the River Ryan is pitching
for the Tigers.
And the Tigers win the World Series.
No, Tarek's.
Okay.
They will. Tarek will lose the game. This is the way. This is the rest of the storyline in my brain.
Yeah.
Tarek Skubal will pitch one of the games against River Ryan. Maybe make it game 1. And River Ryan winds up getting the win in that game, and Tarek Skubal loses, but we still get the Death Star Dodgers going into the offseason as 3-time champs.
Okay, so we're gonna be a little different. We're gonna be a little different in the bracket now that you say that. So, wow, I mean that if that came true, if there was a Skubal deal to the Dodgers, River Ryan goes to the Tigers. Tigers thought they were out of it. Somehow get to the playoffs and make the World Series after selling off Skubal, and they match up with the team they traded him to. I would post this clip every single day for the next year. And if table setters didn't get to a whole different stratosphere based on that clip alone, I don't know if there's anything else we could do. But to very quickly, before we get to our brackets and finish the bold predictions conversation, just to clean up what we just said, Framber Valdez, as far as the highest, so I had him finishing 3rd in Cy Young this year. The highest he's ever finished is 5th. So he's
Okay.
finished in the voting a few times. 2020, which is a shortened season, we can barely count that. He was 11th in the Cy Young voting. 2022, he was 5th. That was his best. He was actually 20th in the MVP vote. 2023, he finished 9th. And then 2024 finished 7th and also 15th in the MVP voting. So, yeah, he's hung around there, but third would be easily an all-time high for him as far as finish goes.
All right. Well, let's get into our brackets here. I'm going to hit the meets thing because I didn't have it before, but I have it here. All right. So our bracket is set up. It's right in the middle of March Madness, and maybe your bracket is already busted. But the beautiful part about these brackets, it's going to take a full 162 and a whole bunch of months and days to fall off the calendar to make these brackets look ridiculous. But here we are. Devin, you want to pull up? Let's pull up your bracket first. I'll pop it here, and then you can go through it.
Sure. I'm gonna be honest. I didn't hear the meets thing either, so I don't know if it's just in your headphones, but maybe it's the whole mute button catastrophe like last time. We haven't told our listeners about that.
We have the meets.
There it is.
All right, there you go.
I heard it this time. All right.
Roadcaster just updated their shit. I don't understand. Like it just did a whole
Steve's
firmware thing, and
Steve's in a fight with his Roadcaster. Let's just say that he's going back and forth with it. All right, so there. Now this looks ridiculous. There's two of me on the screen now, and I'm really happy in that top one. I could have probably used a different one, different picture, but all right, let's go ahead here. So the playoff teams, if you listen to our division previews, are not a surprise, but there may be people tuning into this episode that did not listen to every single one of those or any of them. Who knows? So sorry for the places. I did use the 2025 bracket. I tried to plaster the 2026 over where it said 2025, but it probably says in a few different spots smaller now that I look. But still, best we can do here. So if you're listening and you're not watching, I will describe the teams I have first in the bracket and their seeds. So if we start with the American League, I had the Mariners with the best record in the American League, the only team coming out of the West in the AL. So they are the 1 seed with the bye. The Yankees winning the East just by a smidge over the Toronto Blue Jays. They will get the 2 seed. So they're waiting for the teams. Now, the other division winner I had was the Detroit Tigers, but unfortunately for them, third best division winner record. So they will have to play in that first round, and they'll get all those games at home. They match up with the Orioles, who are going to be third in the AL East and just barely make it over teams like the Red Sox and the Guardians, who are just barely going to miss. All right, so you got Tigers, Orioles in that first round wild card matchup. On the other side of the bracket, the Blue Jays, as I said, make the playoffs, just miss out on winning the division. This time the Yankees get the best of them. They're the 4 seed. And the Kansas City Royals are the team that I have coming out behind Detroit, but getting a wild card spot, matching up with the Blue Jays in round number 1, playing all those games in Toronto. Okay, so that's the AL. And I'll go through the bracket on that side first before I go over to the National League. So in that 4-5 matchup, Blue Jays Royals, winner goes on to play the Mariners in the ALDS. I think the Blue Jays come out on this. I do not think it is a quick series, though. I think, I mean, they're kind of quick no matter what, if we're going to be honest, as far as the wild card. But I think it goes to 3 games here. I think the Royals put up a fight, and the Blue Jays, with that experience from last year, they kind of lean on that. To be honest, I think the hardest thing for the Blue Jays this year is going to be the regular season, that mountain to climb to get back to the postseason. If they can get back there, I think that feel for the postseason and those big games and those big moments is going to come right rushing back. All right, so the second round matchup would be a very cool rematch of the Blue Jays and the Mariners, but this time instead of the ALCS, it would take place in the ALDS. The Tigers and the Orioles matchup in the wild card. The Orioles are going to once again bow out in the first round. Obviously, a few years ago, they did that 2 years in a row, very quietly. I think the Tigers here have the better pitching at the top with Skubal and Fromber, and based on my prior predictions, they're going to be cruising into the playoffs and after a really, really good season. I think they're deeper. The Orioles, I do think Trevor Rogers is going to have a good season. I'd like to think Kyle Bradish is going to be healthy and have a good season. I still just think the Tigers have the best of it here. I wish they signed Fromber Valdez, to be honest. Then maybe I would think about this matchup differently. But I have the Tigers moving on to go play the Yankees in the ALDS. In those 2 matchups, I do have the Tigers prevailing in a very, very entertaining series against the Yanks. I have the Blue Jays once again breaking the Mariners' hearts, which is going to be an absolute bitter pill to swallow in Seattle. And then maybe people would consider this an upset, even though I have the Tigers as the 3 seed and the Blue Jays as the 4. I think this last year with Scooble is going to be a magical run for the Tigers, and they are going to push all their chips to the middle of the table, maybe some chips we haven't seen yet as far as trade deadline, that kind of stuff goes. I think McGonigal's going to be the real deal, and that team's going to be fun to watch. So Tigers are going to represent the AL, and I will say I think that series goes to 7 games as far as Detroit against Toronto. I think we get some classic matchups just like last year. So the Tigers represent the AL. On the NL side, I'll start from the beginning here. I know the Dodgers were not the 1 seed. They didn't win nearly as many games as people thought they would. They had to play in the wild card round against the Reds last year. This year, I think they put it all together. Dominant regular season, even though they kind of take their foot off the gas and let guys get healthy and kind of sit out for a while. I just think it's too much what they have there. They get the 1 seed, win the West. Only team coming out of the West. The Cubs, I love that squad, and I think they're built for this. I do think they come out of the Central and get the other bye. As far as the other teams making the playoffs, I have the Mets winning their division, but having the 3rd best division winner record. So they will have to play in the wild card round, and we'll get a very, very scary matchup because the Pittsburgh Pirates are going to sneak into the playoffs, and they are going to be the 6th seed. So the Mets are going to be staring down Paul Skeens at Citi Field in game 1. And all Mets fans will be, let's say they'll be clenching. Let's just say that. The other side of it, I have Philadelphia just finishing a little bit behind the New York Mets, getting the 4 seed, and they will match up with the Brewers, who finish a bit behind the Cubs. I think further behind the Cubs. Obviously, they were able to overtake the Cubs last year. I think the Cubs are gonna take this division this year. Like they're gonna take it and by at least 5 games. That's my guess. So with those 2 wild card matchups, Mets Pirates, I think the Mets lose game 1 to Paul Skeens, and then I think they come through and take the next 2 and advance and let the Mets fans breathe a sigh of relief. And I do think the Phillies, just like their pitching staff better, I think they beat the Brewers and they advance to try again against the Dodgers. Try again. Mets Cubs in the NLDS. I mean, years ago, 2015, they met in the NLCS, and the Mets absolutely dominated 2 completely different teams, if we're being honest. This time, I think the Cubs take it. I think it's a very even matchup. I do think the Cubs, if you look at all 3 facets of the game, offense, starting pitching, and bullpen, at least on paper right now, when we sit here before opening day, I think they are a little better, more well-rounded all the way around. I think the Cubs take that one against the Mets. And I think the Dodgers once again break the Phillies' hearts. The Phillies are still really good. I just don't think they're different enough to have a different result, or good enough to have a different result when you match up with a team like the Dodgers. Sorry, even though I love the Phillies pitching. And now if Zach Wheeler comes out of the gate once he's back looking like a Cy Young candidate, maybe I can get myself there. But I don't know. I think the Dodgers have too much. Dodgers and Cubs match up in the NLCS. I think we get another classic here, a 7-game series. I do think the Cubs are one of the teams who are built to really give the Dodgers a hard time. And I almost got myself to seeing going through what might the game 1 matchup be, game 2. Maybe the Cubs can get this. I think the Dodgers overall are still just a little better, and they have all that experience to fall back on. I think they get to the World Series. So you go to Tigers, Dodgers, which it sounds like you're going to have too, but I have Scooble still in a Detroit uniform at this point. And I think this time it's going to feel a lot like the Blue Jays Dodgers series. But this time, I think the Tigers come through. And I don't know. In a way, when you do these predictions, you're at this point trying to find a way not to have the Dodgers win the World Series again. And I have the Tigers overcoming them here. So Tigers-Dodgers 2026 World Series, with the Tigers finally getting the Dodgers off the throne.
So a few questions. I do like the run through. For the Tigers winning the World Series, does this change the narrative of where Scooble's going? Does he decide to stay, or is this a
that's
farewell?
The interesting thing. Yeah, it's a good question. I lean towards it'll be like the last sweet goodbye, to be honest. I don't know. I don't think it necessarily changes things. I think he still wants to be a free agent, and I think he'll get some if he has that Cy Young award-winning year for the third straight time and then goes on to lead the Tigers to the World Series in this prediction, I think the price goes up to an astronomical amount, and the Tigers have to say, like, we love you and thank you for this, but goodbye. And I don't know. I don't know if that makes it more tolerable for Tigers fans or even more painful. Maybe a little. I don't know. That's a tough choice.
Yeah, I think it just plays out in a certain way. And it's interesting how we both got there. And I guess my question to you before I get to my bracket for the Tigers, how do you see the year patching out for them? Like, they're going to be buyers at the deadline and they're going to be fully in from day one. This is going to be like everything breaks in the right direction all year.
Yeah, I mean, every team is going to have some stuff that they have to overcome as the year goes, but I think it's going to be a magical year for them. That is the question everyone's asking. Like, if they're not having the great year, like that they expect to, are they going to go ahead and trade Skubal at the deadline? I don't think that becomes a question. I think they lead the pack in the AL Central. Obviously, they had the absolute just catastrophe where they fell apart and gave up the division last year, and that has to be in the back of people's minds. Like, even if they get out to a big lead in the beginning of the year, that's going to be on everyone's mind. But no, I think they're going to get to the trade deadline, and you got to remember they do still have some really good pieces in the farm to go ahead and make a move and push themselves over the top. What that move might be, I'm not going to care. I'm not going to guess right now. You could add another great starting pitcher, I guess. Maybe it's an offensive piece. We have to see who becomes available before we take that guess. But I know maybe Max Clark isn't in their future plans and he's traded. And there's other guys too. Like, he's the first name that pops up, but there's plenty of other guys that people would be interested from the Detroit system.
Yeah, and I think the path, I understand, like, and again, to be transparent with everybody out there, Devin and I do not compare notes. So the fact that we both came down to the Dodgers and the Tigers, yes, they got there differently. If we talk about chalk, I feel like chalk is the Dodgers, and watching what they've done, they've only become better, adding Kyle Tucker, which I feel like we don't even talk about enough at this point. But the thing with the Tigers, I have them getting there in a much different way. So I guess I'll pull my bracket up here. And a lot of this story here, and you guys can see Skubal in a Dodgers uniform right at the bottom over there, just putting some salt in that wound. But looking at like the way the year plays out, and like I'm closing my eyes and trying to picture the narrative of baseball. And I believe I had to add the Guardians in, because I think in the AL Central episode, I don't think I had the Guardians going in. So I was one playoff team short. So I added them back in.
Oh, really? Okay.
I think so. But for Detroit, I think they're going to be hovering around 500. The bottom's going to fall out a little bit at the deadline, and they're going to be asking themselves, what should we do? And clearly the conversation is going to be stoking the flames a little bit further. If they're out of a playoff spot, maybe at some point the Guardians have a decent lead and you're looking like this is a foregone conclusion. But we've seen, as we saw with the Guardians last year, the Tigers on the other side of this. And of course, the Guardians didn't have the offense to make a World Series run. So this would be a one-of-one situation. I was trying to find other opportunities that a team that sold at the deadline in such a big way and were able to go on a run. I think the Tigers also, they shipped off Flaherty that year. And I think that was part of a little bit, but I don't think they were good enough to win the World Series when they got in anyway. This would be an absolute crazy scenario. But the way this would have to work out is a lot of things would have to break right. And I think from late July on, we just see the Tigers kind of becoming the identity with their offense. And you mentioned with Fromber and your bold prediction, that's going to have to obviously come true if they move on from Tarek Skubal. Riley Green has to take the next step. Kerry Carpenter has to become an elite player. Colt Keith has to keep the line moving. Gleyber Torres has to give him some structure. A lot of things have to break right. And Kevin McGonigal is going to play a huge part in this as well. He has to be relentless behind at the plate, stacking quality at bats and just winning and stacking wins from point on to point. I'm looking at the way the Buffalo Sabres are playing right now in hockey, where I think over the last like 48 games, they've won like 32 games and are like some insane number that they put a lot of distance between them. And they were in the same position at the trade deadline that, or maybe a couple weeks before the trade deadline, that the Tigers would have to be in to make this happen. And I think looking at the way this plays out, it is sort of a narrative based thing. So going through the bracket, we have the rematch from last year with the Guardians and the Tigers. And we watched how that played out. There was a lot of drama with both teams. And we watched the Tigers getting the better and obviously going on to take on the Seattle Mariners. And now that I'm looking at it, there is the rematch here with Seattle Mariners and the Tigers in the division series. And on the other side, we have the Blue Jays in a division matchup against the Red Sox in a wild card round. And I think the Blue Jays are going to be deep enough to get past the Red Sox in that round because of the fact that it is a short series, and that's scary with Garrett Crochet. We've seen what the Red Sox can do in that round, but I think the Blue Jays are going to be on a matchup with the division series. So now that I'm looking at it, we have the division series exactly the same as last year on the American League side, which would be interesting because I'm not sure how many years that happens in a row. But the ALCS would be wildly different because the Mariners are going to come up short. The handshake gate that has evolved into this kind of locker room tension is going to take hold. I think the Mariners are going to have a good year, but I do think there's going to be some drama with the Mariners this year to watch with Cal Riley and Randy Rosarena. There's something to that. ALCS being the Tigers and the Yankees. This is what nightmares are made of. You face an upstart team without Tarek Skubal. The Yankees are thinking they're going to sleepwalk to the World Series. And they're going to lose in 6 games to the Tigers. It's going to be like 2006 all over again, losing to Kenny Rogers. That's what it's going to be. Your thoughts on the American League side so far?
It's just funny, like with the Yankee thing. Like, do you remember the narrative 2 years ago when they went to the World Series against the Dodgers? It was all about like easiest path ever.
Yeah.
Suddenly, like the American League doesn't feel like that anymore. Like where, I mean, just their own division is a gauntlet. And then once you make the playoffs, like you're going to have to get past the Mariners and their crazy pitching staff. And now they have an offense also to support their pitching staff, where that used to be a problem. The Blue Jays just feel like a completely different organization, right? And then the Tigers, Skubal and Framber Valdez at the top. I know not in your scenario, but like it's yeah, I mean, it's cool looking at your scenario. It's pretty interesting, like you said, that it could end up being these rematches from 2025, like up and down the bracket.
Yeah, and I think for the Tigers, that would be the narrative that's happening on both sides, where there's the why not us stuff on the Tiger side for the Yankees. I think everyone will be taking the Tigers lightly, especially without Tarek Skubal. Going to the National League side, the D-backs, as I have them in the postseason, you're very down on them this year yourself. And reason to be, I think we need to see more from the pitching. It was a disaster last year. Can we get something ace-like from Corbin Burns? Can they put the rest of the staff together? The bullpen, offense-wise, Corbin Carroll can't do it all. Are we going to get more from Perdomo? There's a lot of questions for the D-backs, but I do believe the bottom of the National League is pretty open for these guys to go out there and make the postseason, especially with the bottom of that NL West with the Colorado Rockies taking a lot of L's. They're going to stack some wins here, and they're a pest to be out there. And they're a team that a lot of teams are not going to want to play. But they're taking on the Chicago Cubs, who I'm very high on as well. I do think that they're going to win the division, but I don't have them getting the bye. I think you had them getting the bye first, but I think they're going to go away with the NL Central this year. I agree with you. I think that I have the Brewers not in the playoffs, and maybe that is famous last words. You have them there. I don't. I think this is the year it finally comes and bites the Brewers, that trading ready Freddie Poulter and moving away from thinking that they're smarter than everybody else is finally going to leave them out of the playoffs. And I think that's a big conversation to have. As far as the National League as well, I think our National League is wildly different as well. I have the Atlanta Braves getting in and making the playoffs, playing the New York Mets. And this is two teams that in a short series, I'm sure you're not going to want to see both the opposites of each other. There's nightmares for you as a Met fan. Your feelings as a Met fan, if you were to match up in a wild card round against the Atlanta Braves, would you feel confident going in, or would you have 90s flashbacks?
I mean, you're talking about a best of 3 series. Almost no matter who you go against, it's scary, because if they have a good number one, it's like you just feel like you could be back against the wall so quickly. So my answer is kind of a cop out, but it would be like, what shape are they in? Because like health has been such a concern for the Braves. Like, is Chris Sale pitching his ass off again and he's fine? Because then I'm scared. Did Spencer Strider find his velocity? Is Didier Fuentes the star that I'm starting to see him as? Like, and did they get some guys back, like a Schwellenbach and things like that? And did their offense stay healthy? Acuna and Austin Riley, who hit a bomb today. Like, so yeah, all the ghosts of the Mets past would definitely scare me for sure. But it depends on what shape they're in at that point, I guess. But you have, I forget your order of the NL East. Yeah, obviously you have the Phillies winning it because I see they have the bye here. Is it then Mets Braves or Braves Mets?
I have the Mets over the Braves, so I have them flipped. Is that where the seating is? I believe I have the Mets as the second finish in the NL East on my side, and then the Braves coming up the rear. So the Mets are going to fall short to the Phillies, but not by much. I don't think the Phillies are running away with this division, as we said in the preview. Go back in the archives and listen to the NL East preview. But the Mets I have getting past the Braves. The Dodgers will be waiting after their bye. They won't be in the wild card round like last year. Well-rested Dodgers will take the Mets to the limit. It'll be a good series. We've seen them in the past in the series, and I think both these teams are going to make for electric moments. Juan Soto trying to get his revenge against the Dodgers. And the NLCS will be the Dodgers and the Phils. Heartbreak awaiting for the Phils as well. And the Dodgers get past them. And awaiting them are the Detroit Tigers. And a lot of the conversation will be the Dodgers are going to steamroll them. This is not a World Series. This will be what people want to say. Going into the World Series, you can just already print the headlines and hear what the radio pundits are saying. This World Series is bad for baseball. We're waiting for lockout. That's going to be more of the conversation having. But the Tigers are going to push them to the limit. It's going to come down to a game 7. And unfortunately, Tarik Skubal is going to win his second start of this series and put the final nail in the Tigers' coffin for the Los Angeles Dodgers' third straight World Series, which is to be absolutely heartbreaking, but that's
brutal.
Hollywood, baby.
That is, yeah, that's a brutal ending for Tigers fans. Oh my God. Well, I mean, when I put these bold in a few days, when I actually just type them up on Twitter, I think I'm gonna have to type my 3, your first 2, and then put this video attached to it to explain the whole River Ryan Skubal World Series scenario instead of writing it out, because that's a tough one to write out. But it's fun, man. It's fun doing these predictions. And like I said, if you go back to last year, sure, there's a few predictions we made that made us look a little foolish, but there's others we hit on the head. Like so this year is probably going to be the same. There's going to be a few that are nowhere close and others that are, we're a little bit ahead of the curve here.
I think a lot of people are pointing to 04 with the Boston Red Sox winning the World Series after trading Nomar, but Nomar was hurt. And I think there was like a contract issue. This wasn't selling. The Red Sox thought they were going to win that year. They were trying to win. So it's not like this would be a hard sell at the deadline for Tigers fans to eat this, like eat them up pod, our friends over there. There'd be a lot of sad voices on that pod when they trade Skubal, especially in a spot where, but maybe there would be understanding being under 500. I think that's part of the reasoning you have, is that you have a pending free agent to try to stock the farm. And I have River Ryan getting there, but I also have other guys. And I was trying to put a package together because it's for half a year, essentially. Looking at a guy like Kendall George, their 14th best prospect, Alex Freeland. If you can get 2 of those guys, it would make it worth it. And I guess if you would sign off at the end of the day that you'd make it to the World Series, I don't know. But then you would ask the question, what would we have been if we kept Skubal, right? Like, I think that's like the what if, the biggest what if, especially with Skubal was the final nail in the coffin. That'd be really hard to swallow for the Tigers, even if you have a pennant to raise.
Yeah, I think the thing is, like, in this scenario you have, and I know you said it was as bold, so you're not sitting there saying this is something I absolutely think is going to happen. It's the bold prediction category where you're trying to go outside the box. But like the toughest sell of that scenario is if they were to make the playoffs after trading Skubal, that would have to mean that they were, within shouting distance. And to me, if they're within shouting distance of the postseason, I just don't see them. I don't see them pulling the trigger on the Skubal deal if they've kept him that long to begin with. Like, that's the thing. That's why I always hesitate with the scenario of them trading him at all. Once the year starts, I think if that was going to happen, you had to have done it already.
If there's one division susceptible to it, I think it's the AL Central. I think there's a lot of flawed teams that are, there's no one pulling away, as we saw last year with the collapse of the Tigers themselves. Like, it's possible that this could happen. I'm not saying it's going to, but that's why we do prediction shows, to get the clicks and get the listens.
I mean, Tigers, Dodgers, man, you guys heard it here first. We have different winners, but both of us have the World Series here as Tigers, Dodgers. So, I mean, maybe we're onto something. We'll see. We'll check back.
Don't go back in the archives and check out that we had the Texas Rangers and the Diamondbacks. I think you had the D-backs and the Red Sox last year in the World Series.
Yeah, and I mean, the Red Sox made the playoffs, and I also had the Blue Jays making the playoffs, which not a lot of people had. So I didn't have them going as far as they did, but we got some stuff right.
Just a bit outside.
I mean, what are you going to do? I was actually trying to hit this one.
Time for Dodger baseball.
Yeah,
Vince will be very happy if Tarik Skubal's in a uniform. That 29
Listen,
jersey.
Speaking of an announcer, Howie Rose announced that this is his last year as Mets radio announcer, and basically put some pressure on the Mets, saying like there's nothing he'd love to do more than MC like a parade down the Canyon of Heroes for the first time in his career. And he actually saw an interview with him. He said, I think Carlos Mendoza, they called him or something. They were talking on the phone or something. Said, "We're gonna go win it for you." Like, most managers I think would be a little annoyed. Like, don't put any extra pressure by putting that out there, but they'll embrace it. We'll take the extra motivation, try to get one for Howie.
If I do recall, he was the voice of the New York Rangers when they won the
Matt
Cup
Toe.
in 94.
Matt Toe. Yeah, one of the best calls of
I don't
all
know if he
time.
emceed the parade. That'd have to be someone to
that I
fact
don't
check
know.
that. But I'm sure he was, he was involved in the celebrations. That's for sure. He was the voice of the Rangers and then became the voice of the Islanders. And obviously he was the voice of the Mets and concurrently and all that stuff. But we appreciate you guys joining us. I know this is a live episode, and if you guys are listening over the weekend, Devin and I have our live for the Fame Draft happening this weekend, which is really exciting. We are just mere days away from opening day, and it's probably the latest we've ever done our draft. I feel like, I don't know if this recency bias, but it feels like it's the latest we've done for the Fame as far as drafting goes.
I think it's the closest to opening day. Like opening day seems so early. So like there's definitely been years where we drafted on this exact weekend. I just think those years opening day wasn't 2 days away. It was more like closer to April 1st, like it used to be. So
yeah, I mean, all of that is just, it's fun. I mean, obviously for a lot of people, they want to get it. They're itchy for it. They want it. The WBC quelled a lot of that anxiety for a lot of people, I think, for spring training and the draft, but the later you could draft, the better. And I'm not saying that as a guy that doesn't like fun. I know a lot of people like to have some of the question marks, but everything you're going to know as much as you can know on this Sunday. So if you are drafting this weekend, good luck to you. Send us what your teams look like. I'm curious what your formats are. We have some Roto Setters episodes in the docket. Hopefully at some point we can release our draft episode. Maybe we'll find a way to wrap that up. We're not sure, just the way things have kind of compressed with the WBC and some of the other episodes we had.
Yeah, it's gotten tight here with the earlier opening day. But I mean, even if we do it a little after the fact, I think that's fine. So we like to kind of just run through, not round by round, pick by pick. That would take hours, but just highlight certain things in certain rounds and choices. And obviously, like our league is unique in the setup, so we explain all that to make everything make sense, because ADPs are not going to add up when you have keepers being kept in different tiers and things like that. So it's a fun episode. We enjoyed it last year. So if we can squeeze it in, even if it's a little after opening day, we'll do it. And if not, we'll do it again next year.
So we'll be back after opening day. So I hope you guys enjoy the festivities. We're going to be really excited to talk about what Netflix's presentation is going to be like. We're getting ready for Sunday Night Baseball on NBC. I know you're really optimistic about that, right?
Yeah, I don't know. I've been very critical of like national broadcasts for baseball for a while, whether it be ESPN or Apple and things like that. Everything I read about how NBC is preparing, I feel like they're going about it the right way. So I'm optimistic. I'm giving these guys a chance. I feel like they're gonna do a good job here. I hope I'm right.
So if you guys want to support our show, you guys can follow us at Table Setters Pod on both IG and on X. You guys can also check us out on YouTube at Table Setters Baseball. And if you're so kind, like the person that Devin mentioned last episode, left a 5-star review on Spotify. We'd like more of that where it came from. Leave a 5-star review on Apple, Spotify, wherever you listen. If you are even kinder, you have a little bit more time in your day, please leave a written review. It goes a very long way, helps the algorithm, helps other baseball fans find our show, and helps boost the morale of your two favorite hosts over here.
Yeah, no doubt. And like at the very least, it'll put a smile on our face, like this goofy smile I have right there. If you're watching on the top of my bracket, I think that's me looking at a written 5-star review right there.
There you go. Well, I absolutely love it. But again, we'll be back soon. And I think what we could have done, Devin, when I guess I'll explain Coughgate quickly, because if you guys listen to the NL East episode, I have the Roadcaster, which I got for my birthday. It's one of the best birthday gifts I've ever gotten. And I had set it up, and I've become spoiled where I'm able to hit the mute button. I just think it's there. Because back in the day, if you guys have used StreamYard or any of the streaming services, you have to hit the mute button on the bottom. There's a whole bunch of buttons to do. You can share stuff on the screen. So I'm hitting it on here thinking I'm muting, and I'm just like hacking up along here. I know everyone in the Northeast are probably near you, probably have a cold somewhere, post-nasal drip type of shit going on. But I didn't know, and I was coughing. So that was up to like 4 o'clock in the morning editing the episode audio-wise. The YouTube video just became lost. I was like, I can't match up the audio with the video. It is what it is. It wound up not being as bad as I thought because I'm in my own mind. I think it was just like 6 aggressive coughs, and some of the other ones you're talking and I'm on the side. So like there's like a couple that I was able to cut out that are isolated, but that's Coughgate for you. And I would have just played like Castellanos going forward.
As there's a drive in a deep left field by Castellanos, it will be a home run.
That's what I should have played after I coughed. Like that's the Castellanos call. But that's the story if you guys are looking for it.
Yeah, there it is. And that's what I was alluding to before when Steve thought he played We Had the Meats and I didn't hear it. The Roadcast just giving him giving him hell recently, but the cough, you didn't hit the mute button that many times tonight, so I feel like the cough's getting a little better.
I was spamming the mute button. I think we were just
all right. That's why. So it's working well tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, I'm getting better. It's more when I'm obviously talking for 90 minutes.
Yeah.
It just happens, but I'm getting better. I feel better. It's just like here in the Northeast with the change in weather, it's still freezing cold here. We're getting ready for opening day, both in Queens and also the Bronx, New York. And it's still freezing, dude.
Yeah, I thought we were like on the other side of things as far like my household, dude. Like it's just there's been like no time where the four of us are all healthy. And like I felt like we were finally getting there. And now my 2-year-old is runny nose, coughing. It's like, I thought we were like kind of turning the other page, but it looks like another cold in the house. So maybe soon. And then allergies will start. We'll get over that.
Yeah.
And spring allergies will start killing all of us.
I think I'm blaming my brother and my parents. My brother's hasn't been here, so I apologize, Jimmy. You haven't been here, but I think he's the one that gave it to my parents who brought it here. They were here last weekend for St. Patty's Day, and then immediately when they left, I developed what has become, as I'm calling it, the whooping cough. So it's been nonstop, but hopefully it'll be better. Nothing makes it better than a few beers and watching some baseball, and then obviously March Madness happening, and then our draft on Sunday. It's my favorite day of the year. It's gonna be awesome.
Very excited for the draft, ready to go. And if Nick and Karen are listening, who have the picks before me, Juan Soto, like I said, I feel like he's just not interested in the season this year, so might want to pass on him.
Yeah, and I have all my keepers up here. We have Bruno is kind of did us dirty this year with the draft board. They got some ink on it. They sent me a new one. They tried to make it right. The stickers are a little bit lighter. They're super deep pool, and there's some stickers we don't have. I know we are a deeper league, but they're missing some names unless I'm just blind to it that should be in here. So we'll do a lot of write-ins and all that. We have some blank ones, but either way, we'll be back soon talking all things baseball, and we appreciate your support as always. We'll talk to you after a while. And as always, happy baseball.